Hi everyone, Amy here, and today I have a fun technique where I'm going to create some faux watercolor with some Distress crayons. Now I have this handful of colors. They're the Tim Holtz Distress line, so they match all the, Distress inks or Distress oxide pads. But I gotta say, I've had these for a while and I haven't really used them much. I liked the idea of them when I got them, but then I found I just didn't really have a way to use them that kind of suited my style. So I decided to get them back out today and try them with some solid stamps and see if I could create a fun watercolor look. So that's what I'm going to do here. This final stamp set from Concord and Ninth, I do create the panel off screen, but it's kind of not as intended because I'm just using the inner layers on that particular stamp set. So it's a fun way to kind of stretch your products and use them maybe in a different way than intended. And I'm going to use my mini Misty and a squirt bottle of water. And here are a couple photos of the panels that I made. But do stick around to the end and I will show you a finished card with one of these panels that I made. So they came together nicely. It was fun to play with them. Very different than what I would normally do, but I am pleased with how it turned out. So this first stamp set I'm going to use from Concord and Ninth, and again I'm just using the inner layered stamps. So they're the ones that are meant to kind of fill in the color inside the outline in these other stamps, but I'm only using the inner portions here just because I want them to be flat and kind of have a lot of surface area, because I'm going to create a faux watercolor look. Now I decided to wait on the leaves and do that in the next layer, but basically I'm just going to brush or kind of scribble this pigment down right over the stamps. Now I got to tell you, it was a little messy. You'll see I kind of get it all over my hand. They get really inky and under my nails, and they are a little finicky to clean, but I was able to clean them up with my stamp chamois. So just bear that in mind. You will have to maybe spend a little extra time wiping off your stamps because it's not going to be just like, ink. There's sometimes little chunks that'll get in the little nooks and crannies, but it didn't ruin the stamps or anything like that. I just had to spend a little extra time than I normally would trying to clean them off. You can see it left little bits in there, but no big deal. I just kind of wiped them off enough to kind of reposition them in the composition and lay them down somewhere else. And as you can see, I have the magnet holding the panel kind of right in the middle of the Misty, and that's just so I can overhang the blooms in different parts, just so it kind of looks like it's continuing off the edge of the page. So I decided to just do that one on the top again, and it's really fun to just kind of scribble in this color. It feels almost like, if you haven't used these before, they feel almost like a, I don't know, like a really soft makeup pencil, or maybe like a eyeshadow pencil if you've used one of those. It just kind of goes down really easily. I'm not being concise at all. I'm really just being kind of quick and messy because I want it to look like messy watercolor when all is said and done. So I come back in here trying to figure out if I wanted to do the blooms some more or just some leaves, but I decided to just kind of put the leaves and fill those into some of the gaps on the bottom part of the panel, just so I can add some green leaves. And I don't have a lot of greens. This is the Twisted Citron, and then I added a little bit of, I think, peacock feather on top of it just to give it some variation in color. So I'm just maneuvering those around, just kind of cleaning them off and moving them to a different spot and scribbling in the color, spritzing them with water, and then pressing them down with the Misty Door. And the benefit of this is if for some reason I didn't get, a full coverage or the full stamp covered with the pigment, then that's the beauty of a stamp positioner like this, is you could just absolutely do it again as many times as you need. And like I said, I want it to look like messy watercolor, so I don't care that there's little like chunks left behind or if it looks really messy. Now this one, I have no idea if it's going to turn out because it is very detailed. It has very fine lines. Some are kind of filled in, some are just outlines, but I know I want to go kind of classy and neutral with this one. So I think I have antique linen, iced spruce, and hickory smoke. And I'm kind of just scribbling over, trying to make sure that I've covered all the areas. But again, I can come back in another time if I need to and stamp it again. So I'm just kind of filling that in, filling in the little nooks and crannies, and then same thing, going to spritz it with water and then stamp it down right in the middle of this watercolor paper. And this is Canson XL, so it's not an expensive watercolor paper. I didn't really need it to be, you know, anything fancy. I just wanted to kind of lay this down and see if it worked. So here I can see I've got quite a few gaps, quite a few areas that I missed. So I'm just going to wipe it off, kind of dry it off with my hand so it's not too wet, and then come in again. This time I have some peeled paint, and I'm just going to kind of fill in some more little nooks and crannies where I think it didn't get a good impression. And I really like this peeled paint mixed in with the other colors, just because it kind of added a little bit more of an earthy feel with this green. So this one I think might end up being my favorite out of the panels that I made. It was just really, really pretty and unique and looked watercolored, even though I don't know if someone could actually watercolor something this detailed. It's got so many little lines in the leaves, but again, I had to stamp it one more time just to make sure it was filled in, but then I think that did the trick. And then I'm on to the next. Now I want to use the stamp set again. This is so cool. I also have the coordinating dies for this one, but it's just so unique and, I don't know, retro looking. So this one I decided to use these leaves, and again, there's some thicker lines within the leaves, but overall kind of still an outline, so it's kind of hit or miss. Here I'm going to use iced spruce and chipped sapphire. And same thing, no rhyme or reason, just scribbling. I'm even kind of just coming right in over with that blue and just scribbling it in just to kind of give it a variation in color. But you don't have to be concise with this. It's really kind of messy, and that's the fun of it. So spritz it with water, close the MISTI, you know, waft my MISTI all around my craft surface. I was just a little aggressive here, so I'm kind of, you know, rocking my MISTI all around. But here I flipped over the cardstock and left the stamps right where they were and stamped in the other corner. And then I'm just going to wipe them off, pull them off the door, and then just kind of nestle them in to the little open areas around the composition. So I'll do that on both sides and also on the top and bottom. I don't know if I included all that in the filming, but you get the gist. So using the magnet to hold it down. Now here are the 4 panels that I made. This one was really cool too. I really like that. This one you saw me make, and then the other one I did off screen just to kind of test it and make sure that the process actually worked. So that was just the innards of this one Hello Lovely stamp set. Now thanks for sticking around to the end. Here's a photo of the finished card. I'm so pleased with how this turned out. I did use some adhesive backed foam, and I just cut that panel out in the foam, so it made it kind of like a sticker. And then the sentiment on the front is gold heat embossed, and I used another sentiment from the same stamp set from Simon Says Stamp on the inside of the card, using one of my Distress oxides to stamp it on the inside. I think an iced spruce, since I used that same color on the front. So it's got nice even dimension. It'll hold up well in the mail. It's got that classy edge from the cool dies that I just got from LDRS Creative, and I have a nice little sentiment on the inside. So now I have these 3 other panels still that I can use for future cards. I did die cut those as well with that awesome stitched edge die set from LDRS. So these will go in my box of panels, and I will have them for future use. So thanks so much for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed this and feel inspired to bust out those Distress crayons if you have them, and I will check you next time. Bye.